Well, this came out of nowhere. For those that don't know what just happened, in the Michigan Senate race, Mike Rogers, the Republican Senate nominee, has officially distanced himself away from AIPAC. And not a single person thought this was going to happen. In fact, most people just assumed that AIPAC was going to just casually support Mike Rogers. Well, apparently, Mike Rogers said, no, I do not want your support. Like it says right here, allies of Mike Rogers, Michigan's GOP nominee for the U.S. Senate, have asked AIPAC not to advertise on his behalf, triggering a rupture with the powerful but polarizing pro Israel group. And really, that's an understatement. Polarizing is not the correct word to describe AIPAC. AIPAC in the last couple of years, it really has become the boogeyman for a lot of people. Now, to be clear, there are some legitimate concerns surrounding the group. I'm not denying that. But really, at this point in time, if you're supported by AIPAC, a lot of people, they're going to immediately, especially on the left, vote against you. It doesn't matter what you support. It doesn't matter if it was for $5, for 10 million. If you get even an ounce of support from AIPAC, they will immediately vote against you. And that's why Mike Rogers is saying, I'm good. I want to avoid this completely because we're not in a state like Florida or Texas or Oklahoma. This is Michigan. And ignore the fact that it's a very critical swing state. It has a lot of voters in the state that really probably would vote against Mike Rogers for the simple fact that he's supported by AIPAC. Now, a lot of them will still vote against him, but a lot of voters, it's very dumb. They simply do not like AIPAC. Even a lot of Jewish voters are saying, fuck this group. They suck. They're incompetent. Nobody likes them. Rogers spoke to the AIPAC chair in LA last week. The next day, AIPAC shelved an already cut video ad targeting Rogers' Democrat rival, outspoken Israel critic Abdul El-Sayed. And I think that's a smart move. Really, if AIPAC actually intervened, the only benefit of them helping Rogers is the fact they have money. They still have, I think, $60 million in the war chest or whatever it is. But is it really worth it? With how much money the Republican Party has right now, do we really need a couple million more from AIPAC? All you're going to do, you're not going to appeal to anybody with AIPAC. The voters that are big fans of AIPAC already, let's face it, they're already voting Mike Rogers anyways. If these undecided voters that don't like AIPAC, if they realize that AIPAC is supporting Mike Rogers and they're actively funding him, for a lot of people, that's not good. You might think that's stupid, but that's a reality of it, especially in a place like Michigan. The extraordinary tension underscores how far AIPAC's political standing has fallen amid voters' anger over the war in Gaza. Even Rogers, a staunchly pro-Israel Republican, fears the group's public support could be a liability in the November 3rd election, and I think it is. There are absolutely no upside here. Seriously, what's the upside? You get the support from a group for a couple $1,000,000, okay? Like we said, the Republican Party already has hundreds of millions of dollars saved up, and they're going to spend a lot of money in Michigan. So what's the point? If AIPAC really wanted to back Mike Rogers, they could just do it indirectly. There are plenty of other groups that most people don't give a shit about. It's stupid. I get it. The whole thing's dumb. But guys, the simple fact is, if voters see AIPAC backing anybody, that becomes the boogeyman. That becomes an unnecessary issue for Mike Rogers. Just don't do it. And I'm glad Mike Rogers' people realized, yeah, you know what? We're going to avoid this completely. We're going to avoid this shit show. Just don't support us. And it sounds like they're actually avoiding the race, hopefully. The move by Rogers' team angered AIPAC officials who had spent more than $30 million trying to defeat El-Sayed in the Democrat primary and prepared to spend millions more to help elect Rogers. Well, that's their fault. That alone should tell you everything. They already spent $30 million trying to beat the guy in the primary. I get it. It's a Democrat primary. Like I said, that's a bigger issue on the left. I understand that. But you spent 30 million attacking El Said for the dumbest of things. And yeah, he underperformed. He barely won. I get that. He still won. This right here is why Mike Rogers doesn't want these people helping him. They already failed. They have already failed. And in fact, like it says here, El Said made AIPAC a centerpiece of a successful primary campaign, using the group's spending against him to portray Democrat opponent Haley Stevens as beholden to the pro-Israel lobby. And it worked. It did just enough to boost turnout with young voters, with progressives. It did just enough in the primary. Again, he underperformed, but that's a big reason why initially El Said even surged. It was all about Israel, AIPAC bad. A lot of progressive voters, they voted for him for that reason alone, because AIPAC got involved. A lot of people were sick of them. So why would AIPAC think, yeah, we failed in the primary, so let's try again and get absolutely destroyed doing so? It is a dumb strategy. I cannot believe they really, and they're upset about it. That's your fault. If you would have actually succeeded in the primary, that's a different story. But in 2026, and this is a serious question, can anyone point to a single actually competitive race that AIPAC or their affiliated groups got involved with and actually won? It's a serious question. They lose all the time now. They are a liability. El Said has called Israel a rogue state, accused of a genocide, and has this kind of say whether Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state. I do think this will hurt him with a lot of Jewish voters, obviously. But again, you don't need AIPAC for this. You don't need AIPAC. All you're doing is adding fuel to the fire and giving them credibility. See, the Israel lobby, they're after me. You must vote for me. And a lot of normies, they're just going to believe that. They did in the primary, not realizing, oh, this guy's kind of crazy. The simple fact that he was against AIPAC and they spent a lot of money against him, it kind of vindicated him. It's stupid, but again, that's what a lot of voters think. Rogers' team warned AIPAC before the August 4th Democrat primary that it believed El Said would beat Stevens. Though AIPAC held out hope Stevens would prevail, the two sides agreed to keep talking. So even Mike Rogers said before the primary, he's not going to lose. It's going to be very close, maybe, but he's still going to hold on. Stop wasting money. Stop adding fuel to the fire. And these idiots kept spending. And they lost. They have spent God knows how much in 2026. It is a complete joke. It's a failure, and it gets worse with every passing election. Yeah, there are reasons Stevens did better than expected. Fine. She still lost. If AIPAC was as effective as they used to be, Stevens should have won by like 30. With the amount of money they spent on this race, she did it. She still lost by like 2 to 3. I get that. There was Mick Morrow still on the ballot. That split the vote a little bit, but still, how do you lose with that much money? After El Said narrowly won, AIPAC told Rogers' allies it wanted to continue its advertising offensive into the November 3rd election. But Rogers' team believed AIPAC's primary ads had backfired by giving El Said a powerful foil, one he was eager to use again. Yeah, this should tell you that Mike Rogers' team, they know what they're talking about. They understand, like the data center thing. They understand it's stupid, it's hysteria, but neutralize the issue completely. Just say, no, we don't want to deal with it. He proposed the 1-year moratorium on data centers, completely neutralizes the issue altogether. And now he is saying, we don't want AIPAC support. We don't want to bother with this whatsoever. And I'm glad their team realized that. Rogers and allies urged AIPAC to get involved without putting the group's name front and center. People familiar with the talks told Axios, and I think that's a much better strategy. When people just hear the name AIPAC, they panic. But when people try to convince you, oh, this random donor once in a while donates AIPAC, that's a little bit different. That's what they should be doing. AIPAC's biggest problem is their name. It's the whole organization. People don't give a shit about these other groups that do essentially the same thing. essentially have the same donors. And apparently, right here, one of the options is, like I said, directing AIPAC donors to support Mike Rogers' super PAC. That's a lot more effective. I'm sorry, AIPAC's dead. AIPAC, you get supported by them, you lose. Like 90% of the time in competitive races, you're done. But here's where it gets even dumber. And this should demonstrate why AIPAC is so unpopular, why they're losing people like Mike Rogers. So they offered him they offer this group an actual alternative. Do an alternate group or just directly support Mike Rogers. Tell the donors, we're not going to be able to support him directly, but we can indirectly. And also, apparently, they proposed to hire AIPAC's political strategists to help try to win. I think it's stupid, but hey, they're trying to help get them involved indirectly. But this right here is why, at this point, if I'm Mike Rogers, ignore them completely. AIPAC officials weren't satisfied. The group wanted a visible role in defeating El Sayed and argued that because Rogers is strongly pro-Israel, El Sayed would time the pro-Israel lobbying groups regardless. Yeah. So their entire argument is, well, we want to defeat him. We want to have the credit for it. Really? You want to that's your reason for this? You want to take credit for beating El Sayed. Man, I wonder why AIPAC is failing. I guarantee you they've been told this a million times. Hey, we don't want your support directly. Do it indirectly. Do it through other groups. That's fine. But nope, they want to take credit. And their argument of, oh, Rogers is pro-Israel. Yeah, El Sayed's going to try to do that. But it only works against like Stevens when she was directly being funded by AIPAC, or I should say indirectly through super PACs. If AIPAC isn't funding Mike Rogers like through their own groups, guess what? Nobody's going to give a shit. The attack's going to fail. And Mike Rogers, so far, he is talking about the issues people care about. It is very interesting that these AIPAC officials, it's like they're arrogant, they're cocky, they're delusional. What's the plan here? Oh my God. We want to beat El Sayed, so we're going to try to take all the credit for it. We know we're unpopular, but if we triple down, by some miracle, that's somehow going to make Mike Rogers win. If you want Mike Rogers to win, stay out of the race. It is just insane that this is real. They are only intervening because they want to take credit for it. Really? If you actually gave a shit about winning, you would stay far away from this race directly. Just punt this race completely. Yes, tell some of your donors to back Mike Rogers. Fine, that's a different story. But they're throwing this hissy fit because he's saying, no, we don't want your support directly. I'm sorry, but guess what? That's not going to work. It hasn't worked in years. It's going to blow up in our faces. Just don't do it. But either way, I'm glad that Mike Rogers' team understands that, yeah, maybe we shouldn't get them involved. And if I'm being completely honest here, this whole saga probably helps Mike Rogers. I know it sounds stupid and silly, but honestly, with how the average voter has gotten more and more skeptical of AIPAC and these other groups, really, the only voters that are going to be mad about this are people that are going to vote Republican anyways. There's no way in hell that these AIPAC people are going to back El Sayed. Now, they may stay home or something dumb like that, but honestly, they're going to vote. And I'm glad Mike Rogers, he's kind of taking a stand and saying, no, you can support us, but indirectly. Send your donors. Whatever you want to do, just don't do your own thing. It's stupid. It never works. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.